is a test run. Hey everybody, we're picking up where we left off with the Sibylline prophecy. That is the backdrop for the book of Revelation, King James Version. It is from the book by Tony Bushby. It is called The Crucifixion of Truth. It's a great book. Let me show you The Crucifixion of Truth. Okay. I'll make sure we can get it in there for you. The Crucifixion of Truth by Tony Bushby. Okay, so The Crucifixion of Truth, Tony Bushby. So we're going to pick up where we left off. We were on page 288, the last reading that we had. Now we're going to go into page 289 and 90. So this is a good series. First of all, I talked about it briefly in a video prior to my last live, and then I finally got into the research as I was talking about, and oh, it was amazing, and I'm just hooked. I'm completely hooked, y'all. Okay, so let me go ahead and get this together for you. So we are reading from page 289, and it's finishing up the reading from the prior live that we talked about. Tony Bushby, we talked about the backdrop for the book of Revelation, which is in the canonical version of the King James Bible as we know it. And so essentially we want to continue the study. We started this in response to the patron saint who treads upon serpents. And we know that that particular ritual is about stomping out the great mothers of the land, of the North American continent, and all that they stood for when it came to being a naturalist, being indigenous to the land, being a person and women in the sacred sister circles who were the mothers of the land as well, and who basically wanted to study and practice their own traditional spirituality of their mothers and their mothers before them for generations and generations, for thousands of years around the planet, and for hundreds of years and centuries within the continent of North America. So this is the continued reading. I would like to give honor to the great Mother, Father, Cosmos, the Queen of Heaven, King of Heaven as well. We're combining those sacred forces. That's the source. Of course, all my Sibyl sisters of the Sacred Sister Circle, of Sibyls, the oracles, the black doves, as well as all of our family, saints, and friends. This is High Priestess Maven, HPMaven, and you are a part of this reading. So all who have the book by Tony Bushby, The Crucifixion of Truth, please pull out your copy, read along with us, and we will continue this, ending it on pages 289 and 290. So this is a great read, and we're going to put this into a playlist, and then we're going to be able to have it available to each and every one of you. So thank you so much for coming and joining for this. I'm really, really stoked about this particular author. Again, this is HPMaven, High Priestess Maven, and we are going to continue our reading. So again, the protocol here is that I'm ending it up. So we're in the last part. I'm going to read the corresponding King James version, chapter and verse, and then I'm going to continue the Sibylline prophecy that is a part of that. So let me see here. I'm going to actually read through just a little bit of that 288, just to kind of do a station identification with it. Let me read through that, y'all, and get that going for you. Hold on a second. As I mentioned, I have it in a some of our sleeves for archiving. It is a part of our work for SHIPS, which is Sacred Heritage International Preservation Society. That's a part of our archive, so we have it in a little sleeve, but I'm going to pull it out. I'm going to go to page 288 because I kind of left off there in our last segment of the reading. And let me get into this. Hold on a second. 288. I'm just going to start from King James Version, book, chapter 19, verse 11. Okay, chapter 19, verse 11. I'm really liking this work, y'all. So let me get into that part. Book of Revelation of the King James Version, chapter 19, verse 11, corresponds to the following Sibylline prophecy. Okay, And then we're going to go from page 288. This is the ending of 288. And then we're going to get into 289 and 90, and we're going to finish it up, okay? All right, let's go. Okay, so, and I saw another angel fly in the midst of heaven, having the songs of day and night, and the everlasting gospel to preach unto them that dwell on the earth, until they have climbed from the pit of slime, and stand naked and washed by the rain before the throne, and stand, and, I apologize, let me start over. Hold on a second. I'm starting actually from 1911. I went up to 14:6. Okay, let me go back. Okay, let me start over. I'm going to go back down. Okay, so here we go. And scene. Let me stop. All right, so here we go. And I saw heaven open, and beheld a white horse, and he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True, and in the righteousness he doth judge, and in righteousness he doth judge. His eyes were as a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns, and he was clothed in blazing light. The end of page 288, 289. And his feet were bare, and his name was called the Word of God, and the Holy Brotherhood followed him upon white horses, clothed in fine linen, white and clean. And they entered the eternal, infinite garden, in whose midst stood the tree of life. And the rain-washed naked throngs came before them, trembling to receive their judgment. For their sins were many, and they had defiled the earth. Yea, they had destroyed the creatures of the land and sea, poisoned the ground, fouled the air, and burned alive the mother who had given them birth. But I saw not what befell them, for my vision changed. So, Book of Revelation 21:1. The following is a Sibylline prophecy. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there were no more sea. And I saw the holy city of the brotherhood coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, Lo, the mountains of the Lord's house is established in top of the mountains, is established in the top of the mountains, and is exalted above the hills, and all people shall flow unto it. Come ye, and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of God, and he will teach us of his ways, and he will walk in his paths. Here we go. Hold on one second. Let's see. Let me go back to that. Give me just a second. Let me start. Okay, I'm going to start from it. He will walk in his paths. I want to make sure I'm reading that the best. Hold on. Give me a second, y'all. Okay. And he will walk in his paths. For out of the holy brotherhood shall go forth the law. Behold, the tabernacle of God is with men, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people. And God himself shall be with them, and be their God. And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrows nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. Those who made war shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more. For the former things are passed away. And this will correspond to Book of Revelation 22:13, and the following is the Sibylline prophecy. And he spoke again, Behold, I make all things new. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, I will give unto him that is athirst of the fountain of the water of life freely. He that overcometh shall inherit all things, and I will be his God, and he shall be my son. But the fearful and unbelieving, we're on page 289, and the abominable and murderers and all liars shall dig their own pit, which burneth with fire and brimstone. And again my vision changed, and I heard the voices of the holy brotherhood raised in song, saying, Come ye, and let us walk in the light of the law. And I saw the holy city, and the brothers were streaming unto it. And the city had no need of the sun, neither of the moon, to shine in it, for the glory of God did lighten it. And I saw the pure river of the water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding out of the throne of God. And in the midst of the river stood the tree of life, which bore 14 manner of fruits, and yielded her fruit to those who would eat of it. And the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. And there shall be no light there, and they need no candle, neither light of the sun. For the Lord God giveth them light, and they shall reign forever and ever. I have reached the inner vision, and through the Spirit in me, I have heard thy wondrous secret. Through thy mystic insight, thou hast caused a spring of knowledge to well up within me, a fountain of power, pouring forth living waters, a flood of love and of all-embracing wisdom, like the splendor of eternal light. End. Well, that is the full prophecy of the Sibyl. Now, that is different from what we know in the King James Version. Very different. As a matter of fact, we have several different verses, chapters and verses that show as the King James addition to the original, what is called the forerunner writing to the book of Revelation. And I'm going to end it with this reading once again that I did in the beginning of the other video, the first one. We're going to have two in this particular series. So the forerunner writing to the book of Revelation. They give it a date of about 500 BC. This document is the apocalyptic writing of the Sibyl of Tarkin. I'm going to start, actually, let me start on the other page because it gives a little bit more insight. Hold on. 279, here we go. So this is how I started. Make sure that's the beginning. Oh, that is the beginning. Okay, so this is how I started. I'm going to end it this way so that you'll have the context. I'm also going to show the book one more time because it's a two-part video. Okay, I had to start again. Let me get this out of this sleeve. Okay, so it's The Crucifixion of Truth by Tony Bushby. And that's what we were reading from, starting on page 280. And he is the best-selling author of The Bible Fraud and The Secret in the Bible. Okay, so this is a great read. I finally tuned into it. You get kind of busy. I know many people who have platforms know how it is. You'll find all kinds of stuff that comes across your way, but some things just stand out. And right before the spring equinox, this stood out, and it just came to me. It kept calling, and I was like, okay, I got to get into this and share this with my platform. So let me get into what I read at the very beginning of this work, because I want to make sure that we all kind of are in tune with where this is coming from. So Tony Bushby is the author, The Crucifixion of Truth. It was started on page 279 actually, and then 280 kind of starts where we get into the Sibylline prophecy. I say Sibylline only because I think about bloodline. That's why I say Sibylline. And you know, this is a great work. I'm telling you, this is an amazing work. Give me just a second here. I have it where we're archiving this, so it's in sleeves. We archive this for our organization known as SHIPS, Sacred Heritage International Preservation Society. It's for this the preservation of sacred rights of our diasporic naturalists. Through the years, we find this information and we archive it to make sure that we keep it, and we're able to share it with our with the descendants and our children's children going forth. We're going to safeguard our information a little bit different than what our ancestors were able to do, because they were, a lot of the stuff that they were sharing were written on the walls of caves, papyri, stone tablets, things like that. But now we have all kinds of modern day, just mini chips and stuff like that, microchips. Now we're in the AI and Gen AI and so on and so forth on Chat GPT. So we're able to kind of share a little bit more within our own special archives and such. So this is going to be a different experience. We do send love out to our ancestors for all that they attempted to do. We will always reverence them and be able to follow in their footsteps to make sure that we're able to do our due diligence in this era at this point on the timeline, so that we'll make sure that we get a chance to keep up with this work. I'm in the trenches along with many others who are working to keep our leg of the journey. We got our little time on the timeline. We want to make sure that we're making an impact here, y'all. We want to make an impact too. We want to be able to say, hey, I stood up and I did what I could do at this time. And, and no one can stop us, right? It's a great thing, y'all. I hope this helps you on your work too. I know those who study this with me, the King James Version of the Bible. You have a place in my heart, especially my day ones. I always send a shout out. I try to anyway. Send a shout out to my day ones who was able to kind of like be there in the beginning. Like I said, I always say, well, even when they didn't know what I was talking about, because things was coming together for us for this day right here, y'all. I'm flipping through the archives here to make sure I have this ready. Because as I started off a certain way, and it talks about the mysteries of Isis and Osiris. I can't get over that, because I was like, how does that fit in with the Sibyl of Tarquin? Tarquin. The Sibyl of Tarquin is where this kind of starts off, and it talks about, I don't know, the mysteries of. Sometimes I think that when people get information, they try to get as much as possible, but at times it's like, okay, did you get the right information, or did you get all of the information, or part of the information, or did somebody give you a little bit here and a little bit there? The next thing you know, something kind of meshed together, or was put together some kind of way. But I don't know how the mysteries of Isis and Osiris got with the Tarquin Sibyl, but we're gonna figure it out. It kind of gets into some of the backdrop, and again, this was put around 500 BC for this writing, the Sibyl of Tarquin, 500 BC. So that BC, of course, means before Christ, for those who may not know. And when we get into it, as we read along, that is, and read what our brother Tony Bushby put together, it gives us some insight on a few other things. And I talked about the number 666. That has been something that's very popular, that a lot of people found a lot of fear involved with the number 666. That just means puts fear on people, but he sheds a certain light on the number 666 and what it means to us when we're doing this study, and how it was placed in Rome even, okay, and used as a actual seal, okay, a wax seal. So we get a little bit of that information through our studies, and then looking into what Tony Bushby pulled up. But I'm imagining, y'all, this is kind of funny. I thought about this the other day. I was like, okay, so when Tony Bushby was doing his work originally, I did a little bit more research on him. When he was doing his work, he had a situation where he would write letters to places like, my understanding is the BBC. Not the BBC, I apologize. It's slipping my mind right now. Give me a second. Britannica, okay? he wrote some letters to Britannica, and they kind of like ignored him at first, and acted as if he didn't know what he was talking about or whatever. And I think what they do is start gathering information. So what I started thinking about is like, it reminded me of something like, y'all know that story with Dan Brown, that series of books, and then they had Tom Hanks play Dan Brown in the Da Vinci Code. I was laughing a little bit at the fact that sometimes I think that what happens is that people that know these stories and stuff like that, or are a part of the stories, I should say, they might write a letter to these people and ask them questions, and they act like the people that they asking questions of act like they don't know what they're talking about at first, and they kind of confer, probably go into meetings or whatever. So I'm thinking like Tom Hanks' character that was Dan Brown, I'm thinking like that might have been Tony Bushby, because he was saying stuff like he would write letters to them and they wouldn't answer him, and then all of a sudden he'll see it in a magazine or something like that, whatever he wrote to them. So he was on this quest, and as he was going to Britannica, from what I understand, next thing you know, Britannica got bought out by the Catholic Church. Yeah, oh yeah, that's some back information. Britannica got bought out by the Catholic Church, and then they started changing all the information. So I'm thinking about Tony Bushby kind of being like a Dan Brown, going after all this information, and I just want to know his full story, Tony Bushby. And and then next what I was chuckling about is how these people probably do all this, and then next somebody in their camp or whatever, next they come out with a series of books and a movie, and they got all this multi-trillion-dollar I shouldn't say trillion-dollar, but a whole multi-million-dollar industry is based off of all these mysteries. So I saw Tony Bushby, bless his little heart. If he out there, if you see this by chance, shout out to you. Your work is awesome, all honor, since I'm using it. But I'm imagining him like a Dan Brown out there, and the people that set up and did a whole book series on him and a movie and so on and so forth. Now, I don't know if this is true, and as I said, I don't say allegedly, I say as the story goes, right? So as the story goes, now he's put all this information out. Then for my finds is that the Catholic Church bought Britannica. So then after that, after Tony Bushby was doing all this research and sending letters and stuff like that, then they sit up and changed the information, and then he I don't know, I think he's lived somewhere in Australia, or he might be in Australia or something. I don't know if he lives there, but I saw some information on that. But long story short, I thought that was interesting, that these people are just watching, ignoring letters, updating information based on what Tony Bushby or whomever might tell them, and then next it's a movie out, it's a book series out, or this whole thing, they ask them, they embellish some work on it, and then next it's this whole big old to-do. I just thought it was interesting. Anyway, I had to put my spin on it. All right, y'all, I won't hold you any longer. I just want to go ahead and leave off where I read in the beginning. So for this work by Tony Bushby, The Crucifixion of Truth. So it's the forerunner writing to the book of Revelation, around circa 500 BC, approximately. This document is the apocalyptic writing of the Sibyl of Tarkin, originally called The Mysteries of Osiris and Isis. It was the true origin of the book of Revelation and the probable source of the concept of the Essenes' two most precious prayers of the Heavenly Father and Earthly Mother. The Sibyl's writings were officially recognized in Rome and highly regarded by numerous religious sects for 1100 years. Constantine referenced the Sibylline books shortly before his death in 337. The Cambridge Ancient History, Volume 12, page 682 is the reference, okay? And her oracles were deeply revered by Italians and Romans until at least the 6th century. The church claimed that Apostle John wrote the book of Revelation after a mystical experience while exiled in a cave on the Isle of Patmos. That was a false pretense, and the concept of the book's origin was plagiarized. This is what Tony Bushby has written in his work. Was plagiarized verbatim from Demesi's memoirs. It's kind of weird because it's D as in David, A-M like Mary, I-S, and then there's a possession S, apostrophe S. Memoirs, Demesi's memoirs, in which the ghost get this, a ghost eventually retired to the Isle of Patmos and wrote its life story. Okay, that's that part. Now, general comments. This is what he puts next. Tony Bushby book, The Crucifixion of Truth, right? A, this is on page 279, by the way. General comments. A, this is book number 2 of 3 books. A small section of the original document is still missing. So as I mentioned, that whole Dan Brown theory I had, I'm like, Tony Bushby running around and going in the catacombs, and I don't know. I was like, okay, this sounds like maybe this might have been originally Tony Bushby, and then they made a Dan Brown. They made up this character. I'm sorry, y'all. My imagination will run wild on something. I'm gonna tell y'all that right now. So I'm thinking that this might have been the original Tony Bushby, and now he became a Dan Brown in a whole little mystery series, and they done made millions. Y'all, I can't help it. I can't help it. Y'all gotta get to know me. All right. So B, the most quoted number is the beast, 666. Revelation 13:18. It's not in the original Sibylline document, as we read through. We didn't hear nothing about a 666, did we? The motif 666 was originally the official stamp of the Roman Senate and used with wax to seal documents. It was taken over by the church after the fall of Rome and used as its seal of authority. In its original form, the number 666 was shown with an eagle, but that was later replaced with a wolf. Hence the term, the mark of the beast. A fine example of the original motif exists as a metal casting on a gate in the underground cells of the Colosseum in Rome. Dan Brown, Tony Bushby. C. Biblical references in the left-hand column are from the canonical book of Revelation and correspond with leading verses of the Sibyl of Tarquin's writings. So that's what I was reading. And then it goes into Revelation. It is at these reference points in the canonical book of Revelation that the corresponding Sibyl of Tarquin verses can be found. So they kind of get into that. And then they go into say the mysteries of Osiris and Isis. So y'all, that's for another time. But I just want to reread the beginning of that and end it that way, because I already read the whole prophecy of the Sibyl of Tarquin, Tarquin. All right, that's all I have. Anything else? Let me see. I'm going to put this in a playlist with the original one that I did. So thank you all for who all joined. Thank you for tuning in to this particular reading. Hopefully you were able to gain something from it. Hopefully this resonates with you. If it does, leave me some comments. Let me know what you think. Give me some feedback on what you feel about the experience of the Dan Brown and Tony Bushby. I done made a whole little, in my mind, I'm not even going to blame this on the godmother Elder Fee. I don't think that they were bringing that to me. Maybe, I don't know. It could be just me. Some of this is just me. But either way, all right. All the best to you all in progress. This is High Priestess Maven, HPMaven. Hopefully we can continue this. I'm going to put this on the playlist. Y'all go ahead and check it out, and we'll finish it up that way. Okay. Take care.